Hey guys, and welcome back to my Let's Play of the PlayStation 2 and Wii version of Sonic Unleashed. We are now in the night stages of Dragon Road, so we've got a lot of Werehog. In fact, this entire 27-minute video is just the 3 stages. There's no boss fight, there's no cutscenes, there's no hub world. This is entirely all 3 stages. Now Dragon Road is unique in the fact that the target time for every single level for all 3 acts is 9 minutes. Every act's target time is exactly the same, and thankfully across all 3 they're pretty easy to beat. The most difficult is probably the second one, for reasons that will become quite obvious when we get into it. And now we're introduced to a newcomer to the enemy list. In fact, we're going to be introduced to quite a few new enemies in this level across these 3 levels. So the first are little Rex, these little, well, they sound like dogs, but they've got the heads of dinosaurs, and they just tend to charge at you and then smack, and I guess bite you. It's weird how so many enemies are introduced in just the first level in the HD version. We'd be introduced to little Rex. It's like the second enemy we're introduced to in the HD version. But we're not introduced, but we don't see them until we get to the 3rd night stage here. Same with the most powerful enemy in the game. We're going to be seeing them this time around. And so this is how this version of Sonic Unleashed anyway tends to just make enemies stronger. It changes colour. If this was a Simpsons game, that would be a cliche in the last level. So now we have these red nightmares, and I think we also have red dark frights in this level as well. They are no different to regular nightmares. They just take more hits. I don't even think they're any stronger. I think that it's just that they take more damage. They just require you to hit them more often. And that's pretty much it, because I don't know if we're quite there yet, but eventually you do get to a point where when you go back to the old levels, then you can take out things like the blue nightmares in one single hit. Which is quite helpful on the killer bees. But we're not going to be seeing any blue nightmares for, well, a long time. I mean, when I eventually unlock the last of the Werehog's abilities, we'll briefly see them there, but I probably won't be hitting any of them. This is where you really come to hate the Werehog's platforming. It's like there's no weight to his jumps, and sometimes they just don't like to work like it did there. Thankfully, even when you're falling, you can still double jump. But there's just no weight to the Werehog's jumps. So very often I just end up finding that I go way further than I want to, but I don't think I'm going to, so I double jump. It's like, I hate platforming with the Werehog in this game. Even if it's big platforms, it's terrifying. When they're stationary, okay. It's when you have to jump across moving platforms, that's where it's a problem. There's one particular area when we get to Arid Sands that I really hate. The platforms are pretty big, but they're still big enough. They're still small enough for it to be quite awkward to do with the Werehog. And a lot of that is simply because I'm not sure exactly where I'm going to land. So I could have taken that Dark Bat, but A, I missed the item box and the Dark Bat had already gone away, and B, there are enemies if you go along this bridge, and of course I want to get as much Gaia Force as possible so that I definitely can guarantee the S rank as well as just get myself upgraded faster. By taking these guys out. Look, they're the same colour as the freaking bridge. It's a sign. No, it's not really. Nightmares aren't going to be the only enemies that go red. It happens to a good chunk of the enemies, actually. There are red variations of enemies in the HD version, but not nearly as much as there are in this one. It's like, the enemy variety is a bit lower here. And so I guess what we have instead is we just end up with red versions of most enemies. Because in the HD version there are no red nightmares. I think they just end up just having you fight deep nightmares all the time instead. There's red Rexes, there's red killer bees. They're red frights. I can't remember if there's red frights or not. But anyway, there isn't that many, whereas in this version, we have the red nightmares, we have red deep nightmares, we have red killer bees, we have red Rexes, we have red titans. So there's a red variation of all, and there are red frights in this version as well, for definite. So besides the fact that there aren't as many enemies, there's also, so they just decide to change colour instead. I never understood why this version doesn't have you fight the Egg Knights, not the Egg Knights, the Egg Fighters in the night stages. It's simply, you fight Eggman's mechs in the day stages, but you fight Eggman's mechs in the day stages, by which I mean you boost and homing attack into them. And then you have the Dark Gaia spawn in the night stages. Whereas in HD you have Egg Fighters and you have Dark Gaia spawn all together. You know, they don't even fight each other. They actually work together to try and defeat Sonic. So you even have like the Dark Gaia spawn. There are these ones that can. You have the masters, these wizards that can heal other enemies. They can make them stronger, and they will do that to the Egg Fighters, even though they should really be fighting each other. The camera is really not helping me here. Take out the dark. Take out the deep nightmare. I still hate that name. So we'll do the right pathway first. So you can activate this lever, and that opens the upper pathway. Which in turn leads us to the goal ring. So we're almost at the end of the stage. We're going to finish it in about 7 minutes with what I try and get myself in the correct position. The 9-minute time limits for all 3 of these stages is pretty easy to beat. Again, it's the second one that I find to be the most difficult, and that's not because of the level's length, it's just because it's got some difficult platforming in it. Where if you fall down, you're not necessarily dying, which I nearly fell down then. It's just you then have to climb your way all the way back up. So Sonic, where do you plan on going after that? That room just leads to a dead end. We have accomplished nothing. Apparently. So apparently this level is called the Floating Shrine, because I guess it's a small shrine surrounded by water. That's the only explanation I can think of. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Otherwise, there's nothing special. So now we can finally start upgrading our other stats. So we upgraded our attack a bit earlier, now we've upgraded our Unleashed bar, and in the I got so much force I can even get to the next upgrade, which would be our health increase. So this is what we're going to be having most of the time now. It does the combat first, and then you start unlocking, like, you start upgrading your other statistics, your power, your health, your Unleashed meter. And then we get to the final attack much later on because it's so much stronger. That is something I kind of wish it was like in the HD version where you can choose what one you want, because that was one thing I did like about the HD version. I mean, I do just keep upgrading combat because I want all of my moves, most of which I don't actually use, but I still want all of the moves that I can unlock in the HD version, so that's usually the first thing I get, but it's also the easiest to get the experience for. It doesn't require as much, and then every now and then I'll increase my health, I'll increase my strength, I'll increase my Unleashed, and then I feel obligated to increase my shield, even though the shield doesn't really work in that version of the game. I don't think this is the first time I've actually mentioned the shield. So the Werehog has a shield. If you hit L1, Sonic can... He sort of just lifts his arms up in front of his face, and then they start glowing, and that's a shield apparently. You can do it in the midst of your attacks. It's like a sudden guard. In this version, while I still don't particularly use it that often, it is kind of useful. But in the HD version, it actually has a meter in terms of how much you can use it, but how that meter drains, I don't understand. Because like sometimes I can be using a shield against a really strong enemy, and there'll be no effect on the shield's meter whatsoever, but then they'll do the exact same attack, and suddenly all of my shield meter is gone and I've still taken damage. So I do not understand how the shield in that version works. So now we're introduced to the Dark Masters. There's a variety of these. These ones are simply called Dark Masters. Take on a much more humanoid shape compared to the others. That one doesn't particularly do a lot. It's the later ones that can be some of the most annoying. They rival the Killer Bee as the most annoying enemies in this game. There are some that are exclusive to the HD version, some that are exclusive to this version. I think that was pathetic. I just went right back into those spikes. Actually, I think that's the only one that's exclusive to this version. They don't do anything, they just hover around and they try and hit you with a stick. While you're attacking them, they'll try and teleport away, and that's all they can do. Thankfully, there are no healers or attacking creatures, if that's all I can think of, that exist in the HD version. They're the two that I really hate in that version, because they are also the two Dark Masters you come across the most. They can heal enemies that have taken damage, and that includes during your quick time events to take them out, which then really reduces the amount of time you can do the quick time event. There are those that can increase their strength, so they take even more damage. But they can hurt you even more. And I really hate that item box, because that camera just suddenly snaps like that. So when the camera snaps, Sonic's momentum keeps going. And so what you have to do... So what you really have to do is you just got to get your momentum going, the camera will snap and Sonic will just keep going in the same direction he was. But because the camera has snapped, I get the idea that I then need to hit the analog stick all of a sudden to turn around. But Sonic's not going to do that, he is suddenly going to be changing direction. It doesn't happen very often, I think it only happens like 3 times, but they're really awkward when it does. So that was number 1. So this axe is called Rising Dragon Falls, because as you can see over in the background there, we have a pretty big waterfall, and I guess it's called Dragon Falls, because Chun-nan is based off of China, so we have to have dragons in there somewhere. Actually, I really do like Dragon Road's Knight's music. I actually used to be quite creeped out by this, because it's similar like Chinese instruments, but in some cases... especially at the beginning, it almost sounds like it's like a wild animal howling or screaming. I know it isn't. I don't know what the instrument is, but it does actually sound quite spooky in this one. This one I would say Dragon Road has some of the most dramatic music, day and night. Well, maybe dramatic's the wrong way. It's like the night music is... No, it's not dramatic, and there's always something behind the waterfall. But the night music is a bit spooky in its first half, but in the second half it's almost kind of relaxing in some ways. And then you have the daytime music, which is it's not so much energetic, but it's dramatic. You got all because it's like in addition to like these same instruments, you also have a lot of drums. So especially at the beginning, it's a very dramatic opening to the music. You don't actually need the werehog to climb up onto that previous ledge that's down there if you dash. Dash and jump and double jump, you can get up there. Sonic does act really weirdly to the terrain in this level. He does it a few times in other levels as well, but I find it here to be the worst. This is why I do sometimes tend to struggle with getting the 9-minute time limit for this level, because if you fall, you're not going to die, so screw you Rooftop Run HD. When going up that clock tower. But the problem is that you then need to climb all the way back up again. And by the time if you keep doing that, if you don't fall down far, but you have to keep climbing back up, or if you fall a really long way down, you then have to climb all the way back up. It adds up. And when you're waiting for things like the dark bats here, this is tedious now. So you're doing quite a bit of waiting around. I'm curious actually, does this waterfall look any different on the Wii version? Because graphically it is for the most part just a watered down port of the Wii game, so I imagine certain graphics probably look different in addition to just the lighting. I know it does in a few areas, because I know, well, Sonic's model, both his normal one and the Werehog, are different. They're completely different models. Some of the water, when we get to the Gaia Gate in Adabat, that looks a bit different. It looks more realistic in the Wii version compared to PS2. And I know everything looks a bit darker here. Well, a lot darker here. I can barely see what's going on at times. And it probably all looks a bit better on the Wii. But again, at the same time, it doesn't really help with some of the models. There are times where Sonic looks like he's about to shoot lasers out of his eyes. There are times where the Werehog is luminescent and it glows in the dark. I mean, I guess that you could say that makes it easier to see the Werehog. But it just looks weird. And there are moments where I look at Sonic's arms when he first drops out of the sky at the beginning of a stage. But the Werehog's arms are kind of weird in a way I'm not sure how to describe on the Wii version. Like, it sort of almost looks like his fur is on fire. Like his fur has got gas surrounding it, so it all looks a bit hazy. Whereas here, it just looks like a solid object. But also here, the Werehog is freaking ugly. You know, the Werehog looks silly, no matter what, I think, but I wouldn't necessarily say he was ugly. I don't dislike the design, I just think it's silly. You know, the very concept of the Werehog is silly. The very name is silly because the word were means man, so we are essentially calling him Sonic the Man-Hog. Which is odd because I'm pretty sure that's what Sonic already is. See, I was holding on top of that, but I was holding down the button. But in the Wii version, I don't like the look of the Werehog that much, and really I'm more distracted by his arms because they look so hazy. Here, his arms aren't hazy, but his model, his face is so ugly. It's my big problem. By the way, Sonic does have like different quotes for each rank, which is, I mean, they've been doing that since but technically SA1, if you failed the mission, he would go, "Hey, pump it up!" And then they sort of kept doing that for a while. What's weird is that with the Werehog in this version, is he actually does speak before he gets the rank. So it's like, if you get the S rank, he'll go, "How do you like that, huh?" And that tells you you've got the S rank, even though you can't see your statistics yet. You can't see the rank. What Sonic says is, what Sonic is saying is that he's already got the S rank for you. I can't remember what his other quotes are. There's one where he goes, "Can I start over?" I think that's if you get a B rank. Which is quite hard to do. You have to be deliberately missing rings, trying not to kill too many enemies. Or, you know, you gotta make sure you fail at 2 of the things. Getting C ranks, that's next to impossible with the Werehog. For the boss fights, yes, because you can only get S or C. There is no B or A, but for the main stages, C's are easy. C's can be quite easy to get in the day stages, but not in the night stages. So now we're on Path to Darkness. Or, as I like to call it, the Great Wall of Chun-nan. Because that's exactly what we are on here. This is just the Great Wall of China. So again, like I was doing in one of the earlier levels, only the opposite way around this time, we take the upper path, and now we're going to take the bottom path because there are enemies inside, and enemies equal points. Well, they equal force, I should say, which are technically points, in a sense. Just like experience points. Points for your S rank. I really hate the noises these things make. And it's all because of one specific noise that I really don't like. I don't think they actually do it in this version, but they do it all the time in the HD version. You know, it doesn't sound quite like the dog sound effects that they use normally. It makes like a yeah kind of sound. It sounds a lot more human than anything else. I mainly find it annoying just because from a far distance, it kind of sounds to me, when I've known people that are quite far away, but they shout out, Jack! And that's what it sounds like to me. It sounds just like that. So I keep thinking it's some... I was like, wait, who's shouting my name? There's nobody here. It's like, that's what I think it is. Oh look, we have Eggman robots in the night stages! And they're the only Eggman robots we have in the night stages. This is so weird. But yeah, seriously, these are the only ones. I don't remember what these things are called. There are 3 different kinds. There are these ones that shoot air. Later on we'll get those that shoot ice, and then we get ones that shoot fire. But it's... Why are they the only Eggman robots to appear in the night stages in this version? Where are the Egg Fighters? Where are... I think that's pretty much it, really. I don't remember if we encounter any of Eggman's other robots, because they're mostly built for sonic speed. We don't come across anything like spinners or the ones that shoot cannons out of their heads that we saw in Cool Edge. It's pretty much just the Egg Fighters, whether they have shields, whether they have a sword, a shield and sword, or whether they don't have anything, or there's these ones that can rapidly fire machine guns out of their nipple lights. I say that, actually, I think they fire them out of their arms. But anyway, woo! I don't know why I was thinking that's what they did. That's not what they do. They definitely fire them out of their arms. What enemy am I thinking of? I don't think that's in Sonic Unleashed. I don't think that's in anything. I think what it is just because I suddenly recalled somebody who was describing Sonic 06's Eggman design. They said, they were criticizing the design, rightfully so. And he just said, why would they give him these massive orange nipples? And it's very true. I hate Eggman's design in 06. I'm not a big fan of his classic design, really. But I do like modern Eggman. I don't know. His classic design is alright. I just don't... It's like, how does he run? Especially, how does he run faster than Sonic when he is literally a ball? But it's like, modern Eggman, he actually looks like a real human. And he's still got the egg shape. He's got a more realistic egg shape, really. It's narrow at the top, and then it's wider at the bottom. And then you have Boom Eggman, which is kind of like I think Mike Pollock described it as an upside down egg. And he does. That is kind of what he looks like. When it isn't that, it's Eggman's massive legs and feet that I'm distracted by. Or maybe it's just because modern Eggman actually has a personality, and he is almost always the best character in the games. He is the best character in Colors, he is the best in Lost World, he is the best in Adventure. Then you have stuff like, you fool, away, before I make mincemeat out of you. That is probably his second best line ever. After Sonic Lost World, as long as I can strangle a Zeti, my hands are fine. I can gush over that line so much. Both of those lines I can gush over. They sound so awesome. And he's definitely the best. Is he the best character in Boom? I do really like Knuckles' writing, as he gets some of the best lines. I actually do really like Sticks. It's difficult because Boom is like kind of its own thing, but in many ways Eggman isn't really any different to how he would be in the modern games. To an extent, anyway. But he's not as evil. I know he doesn't like to be... he doesn't like being called Mr. Eggman. When he found out that he didn't actually have a PhD. Also, this is where I die. So I miss... He hits me, I mistime that, and then I fall down. Thankfully, in the SD version's night stages, death is really doesn't mean much. Because you don't have checkpoints. It just takes you back a tiny little distance. So I was able to catch up, and because the target times are so generous in these levels, I still finished with plenty of time to spare. It's not like the HD version where not only do I go back to the checkpoint, my timer is still going and my score is set back to 0. And that's the shield. It's way more effective in this version. And that was a Titan. Believe it or not, they are the strongest enemies in the game. And because I died, I wasn't able to activate Unleashed, which is what I normally do when I encounter Titans. Because they have 2 attacks, I think. They have one where they just smack this giant stick on top of you. And they have one where they sort of get down, they move their arm to the ground to the side, like to the left, and then they sweep it along the ground. Both, I think, do pretty much the same amount of damage. But what I try and do is I just activate Unleash, do the full combo, and then that usually takes them out before they get a chance to actually hit me. Bit more difficult when we get to the red variations of them later on because they have too much health. The combo doesn't work and I usually end up taking a hit as a result. Look at that door. It's a very unique looking door. And it's not the Gaia Temple door though either. It's just, I don't know what this building is supposed to be. Maybe it's a gate that leads to the Gaia Temple? And then the boss is on the other side? Maybe? I don't know. But that's Dragon Road Night. We're about to finally... We're going after the village elder. I'd like to point out that the village elder, Zon Shen is his name, he went through all of that. He had to... Because we're going to be seeing him when we get to the boss fight at the beginning of the next part. He must have gone through all of this. Whatever version you're playing, and I have to give him congratulations for being able to do all that. So we're going to rescue him next time when we have the Werehog's first boss fight. So I will see you guys then.